the changes in my internal state and in the ways that I'm able to show up in the world that Jenny has sort of catalyzed in my life are so foundational that that really, if I choose to stop and look, there is evidence of them in everything that I do. I live in a far larger universe now than I did before I went on this journey, before Jenny sort of started inputting into my world. The level of perception that I have about interpersonal interactions, about what's going on inside my being, about my ability to change my thinking and to recognize when the current mode of thinking that I'm in is not helpful. All of these things are things that have expanded my universe, and I would say that that Jenny is probably the single largest external factor in that process that I could point to. I guess I've been on a journey for many years, trying to fight my internal demons, I suppose. Like most people, I ended up with a bunch of baggage and trauma from childhood that ruled my world. It was largely based around shame, and a pervasive shame, and abandonment. I think these are extraordinarily common themes, especially amongst Westerners. I was aware that I was unhappy. I have bipolar disorder and ADHD, although I didn't know that at the time. And so, these things have coloured a lot of my life. I remember Jenny mentioning a few years ago now that what psychiatrists label as borderline or bipolar or to some extent ADHD is very often underpinned by unhealed childhood trauma. And I must admit that when I first heard her say that, it sounded, ever so slightly kind of woo. But my experience, both with Jenny and where I've gone from that and the things that I've learned really put paid to that statement. My mental health and symptoms are a fraction of what they used to be. Now that I have tools to manage them in an acute sense, but as a chronic statement or a pervasive statement, the magnitude of them is far smaller than they ever used to be, and that is, I credit the work that I've done with Jenny and learning about my trauma and the triggers and the drivers that has in my internal life, and learning how to reframe them. So from the emotional mastery course specifically, the emotional first aid skills are stuff that I use every day. In the last 12 months, I had a psychological injury at work, and I'm still sort of recuperating from that. And part of that has been that I've had major and prolonged panic attacks for the first time in my life over the last 12 to 18 months. The technique, one of the particular techniques of dunking your head in cold water stops panic attacks in their tracks for me, like instantly. And what's particularly wonderful about that learning for me is that they're not just arbitrary rote tools that I can use, but they came along with a really solid and easy to follow description of the actual physiology that is at play in that. And that alone, if Jenny had never done a single other thing for me, other than teach me those very, very simple techniques that I can actually remember when I'm in a panic state, that would be life-changing. But that is a drop in the bucket compared to the breadth of things that Jenny has gifted into my world, that their impact can't be overstated. The most exciting thing about being able to use these tools in my life is the way that it has shifted my state of being from being completely consumed with existing moment to moment because of the level of suffering in my internal world due to my trauma. Now that that's gone, my reason d'etre has changed to playing in the mud of the universe, by which I mean the only thing that I need to concern myself with is being curious about every facet of my world, and that I'm convinced is the best way to live. It has the best external outcomes. I'll have the most impact that I can have in my life by following that goal. I'll be the happiest that I could be, and everybody that I touch will be more likely to be positively influenced by my presence in their world, because my focus is curiosity and play, and that is directly because of the changes that emotional mastery has given me or facilitated in me. She didn't just give me the tools to solve the problems that I had. She gave me the tools to understand the problems that I will have, that I have no conscious awareness of at the time, or no paradigm for, no framework. She gave me the ability to understand the meta concepts in whatever my experience is, in such a way that I am actually able to shift my actions and my thoughts and my state of being towards where I want them to be, because I can understand what's going on under the covers, under the floor, under the foundations, and under the crust of the earth. So to summarize all of the impact that Jenny has had in my life and the consequences of the change, the best way that I can think of doing that would be to express that before all of this, my experience of existence was suffering, and there's still suffering in my life, but its pervasiveness and impact is diminished so far that that my default experience of existence in this universe is bliss.